Second day of practice is winding down, and we're here with a guy who's been here several times from the back of the boat, but now first time from the front of the boat, Braxton Setzer. Braxton, what's it looking like now, you know, being able to run around and do your own thing?
Well, it's kind of nice having the luxury to be able to kind of go do what I want to do, but then again, it's a completely different lake this year. Most of the lake has color in it, which is not typical for this lake, and it's had color in it since about the end of January.
Right.
So you know, I think that's changing things. I think that's got some of the fish up a little shallower than typical. So you know, it's going to make things interesting. I'd like to know if the smallmouth are going to play. I'm still pondering that. I think the largemouth are definitely, you know, definitely going to be biting a little better.
Oh, yeah. So, well, like you mentioned, it's dirty. Some guys really favor that. Some guys are crying up a storm because it's so dirty. Which category do you fall into?
I guess I'll let you know Thursday afternoon. No, I would rather, personally, I think I'd probably rather see it clear, like it normally is. Just that's all my history here is when it's clear, and so this is you know, this is a bit of a curveball. So it's taking some adjusting and going to take a little bit of learning, I guess, to kind of figure things out.
You know, normal years when we talk about clear water, you know, from Prairie Creek here, really from here down, the lake's pretty clear. You get down by the dam, it's usually really clear, and that's where we see the smallmouths play. You go up under the bridge, that was always kind of the dirtier water, and where more of the largemouths came out. This year, have you noticed anything different? Have you checked enough of the lake to kind of see maybe there's a largemouth bite down the lake more that we hadn't seen in years past?
Yeah, so it's kind of actually backwards this year. The midsection of the lake from pretty much here down to about Rocky Branch it is dirty, and the farther you go up the river, it seems to get cleaner up there. I actually ran almost to the back of the War Eagle today, and the further back you go in the War Eagle, the cleaner it gets. So that's definitely different. And so yeah, most of the dirty water is in the midsection of the lake, so that's going to change up things. You know, I think you're going to have a lot of your river rats actually stay down here this year.
Sure. Maybe kind of spread the field out a little more.
Yeah, I think it's going to make the lake fish a lot bigger than it normally does. Which never really been much of a river rat myself. I don't particularly care to go up there. I went up there to check it out. But yeah, I think though the guys that favor that dirty water will have a bigger area to spread themselves out in, and I think it's going to actually condense some of the clear water guys. Okay.
We asked a few guys this yesterday, but right now, are the fish more pre-spawn, spawn? Are we going to see a mix of fish, or is it kind of heavier one way or another?
You know, it's hard for me to tell. I think most of the ones that I've been seeing have been mainly pre-spawn. Kind of see signs of some spawning activity that is going on and that has gone on, so I think you may see a mix.
Okay.
But you know, I haven't been trying to set the hook on too many. Just trying to leave them for tournament day. But yeah, the ones that I've seen have all been mostly really pre-spawn. So, okay. Any day now, I think next warm snap they get up here, this lake is probably all going to try to go on bed at one time, because these fish are pretty fat. You know, the eggs are pretty ripe, so they're getting on up there.
Well, with you know, heavier on the pre-spawn side, and since you've been here enough to, you know, see how beaver's kind of gotten better every time we've come here, will we see bigger weights this time around?
I think so, and I don't know how much pre-spawn is going to play in that, and how much the bigger area of dirty water is going to play in that.
Okay.
So I think some of the dirtier water is going to make some of these fish that are typically uncatchable fish more catchable this time around.
Sure.
you know, it's a big difference looking at it now versus when you have, you know, 2 foot of visibility in places that normally have 10.
Right.
So it's going to change things up a good bit. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think the weights will be heavier. How much heavier, I really don't know.
Well, it's not like guys are going to go out and start just catching 7-pounders at will, but
no, not at will. But I've seen a couple of nice fish this week, and I've talked to a couple of people that have seen some nice fish themselves. Some fish that would be considered, you know, big for beaver.
Sure. Well, man, you got one more day to figure it out. We'll let you get rolling and get at her, get rigged up, ready for tomorrow. Good luck, Braxton.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys, second man up is circuit breaker this year, Uber star, Cody Meyer. Cody, I understand you've caught every fish there is to catch in Beaver Lake at this point?
Pretty much. So I've caught a giant striper. I've caught all 4 species of bass, a meanmouth, smallmouth, largemouth, bluegill, no crappie. So I'm almost there. And then just about 30 minutes ago, I caught a giant catfish. So I'm on a mission, man. Tomorrow I'm going to get a crappie jig out there, and I'm going to go Strike King makes a ton of great crappie stuff. So
oh, for sure.
I'm sure I can put together a grand slam here this week.
All righty, I like it. Now, have you been keeping any of those walleye? I hear they eat good.
You know, I've caught a couple. I have heard that, but to be honest, I don't feel like filleting them and cooking them. I mean, we get off so late, like right now, and I have to drive back to Rocky Branch, and it's like,
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, we've talked a lot about how the lake is a little muddier than usual, which I know maybe you don't love.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. You're a great fisherman. You're going to find them. You're going to figure it out. What are some of the techniques that play out there with this little bit dirtier water?
Well, I'll tell you what. So I've been to Beaver Lake. I think this is my 7th time. And I have never seen water like this. I mean, you look behind us, you can't really see, but here in Prairie Creek, I mean, the visibility is like that, which usually it's, you know, 7-8 feet, and down by the dam it's usually 20 feet, and it's a little bit clearer down there, but it's so much different. Tactics, you know, a lot of guys are going to be throwing big spinner baits, a lot of crankings going to be going on, you know, square bills and stuff like that, which normally on Beaver Lake there's no way you can throw it because it's too clear. And then a lot of like flipping. I think the weights, you know, fishing hasn't been great for me yet, but the weights are going to be a lot higher than normal, just because when this water gets so dirty, a lot of those bigger fish you can't catch when the water's clear, they're going to bite. And the last couple months, you see the team tournament results, and the weights
they've been great.
Yeah, outstanding. I heard Greg Bohannon say 13 pounds was 70th place in a team tournament 2 weeks ago, which typically 13 pounds a day, and you're easily in the top 10.
Yeah, you're rocking it.
Yeah.
As far as, I guess, it goes out there, do you feel like it's a numbers game where you need to grind through a lot of fish to catch that 13, 14 pounds that seems attainable now? Or is it a matter of getting 3 or 4 good bites where before you could only get 1 or 2 good bites?
You know, I think if you're fishing for smallmouth, it's a numbers game. You're going to have to, because right now it seems like, you know, there's a lot of little smallmouth, which usually you would set the hook on 3, 1 be a keeper. Now it's like, you know, I set the hook on 7 or 8 and 1's a keeper, and they're not big keepers. I know there's big smallmouth out there, but I think if you're doing the smallmouth, it's a number thing. I think if you're fishing for largemouth, it's just get the bites. You get enough bites at largemouth, you're going to have really good weight. You know, today I caught a couple decent ones, but they're so random. You know, you catch one cranking, and then you crank 2 miles, nothing, then you flip a bush, you catch one, you flip 400 bushes, that's it. So the largemouth are definitely super healthy right now and big. It's just, can a guy get enough bites a day and do it for 4 days is going to be the question.
You don't think spots are going to play in at all here? Because I know in the past guys have chalked up, you know, honestly, I think you probably have some top 20s catching like almost solely spotted bass when they're big and pre-spawny. You feel like that's not quite the deal? You
know, I actually have. I've had some great finishes here on spots, but it's when the weights are smaller. You know, 3 pound spot here is big. I've caught a couple 4s, but that's, you know, 7 years of fishing. I think if the weights were normal, you could make the top 20 on spots, but it's just not a normal year. And I think, you know, about the biggest bag you could catch on spots. Of course, you can catch 15 pounds or something, but realistically, a really good bag's 12.5 pounds, maybe 13, and that's really good. So, and I think this year you're going to see a lot of good weights. You know, like like I said, I mean, I'm just going off of experience, you know, looking at these tournament results, and the weights are big. So seeing that, it's a little bit scary with how my practice has gone.
All right. Tell me about the smallmouth a little bit. Typically, they're down near the dam in the clear water. Is that the only place they're biting, or are they kind of spread around a little bit now that more of their smallmouth ground is dirtier?
You know, it's a good question. I fish a lot of mid-lake typically, and I've been fishing that today, and it's hard to get bites by smallmouth. They're visual feeders. They like sun. They like clear water. So the muddy water, they're not really biting. You know, there's a million smallmouth back here in Prairie Creek, and I fished in here for a while today and couldn't even catch one. So I don't know, do they just migrate to the dam? But then there's only so much good stuff down there. Every boat's on it, and like I said, there's a ton of small ones this year for some reason. There always is, but it seems like you sit there and you just catch the little one, and then find the keeper.
All right. I guess my last question, this is the second day of practice. Tomorrow, the final day, you've got to go out, you've got to figure out, you know, what to do, maybe fine tune some things for the tournament. What's kind of your plan? You know this lake well, are you going to go try and eliminate something? What's on the docket?
So I came here the first year and I went up the river, and I said I'd never go back up there. Tomorrow I'm going back up the river.
Oh man.
You know, it's just, you got to fish to try to win. That's where the biggest fish are. That's where I think your guy has a chance of catching a good limit. You know, you can anywhere in the lake, but you know, that's where most of the bigger largemouth are. So I'm gonna go up there and play around, and went up there a little bit today. Like I say, caught a couple decent ones. So random though, but tomorrow maybe I can figure out something where I can catch a limit up there.
All right, cool. Well, Cody, thanks for stopping by. Thank you, best of luck.
Yeah.